This is APM.
This program is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, who's expanding its services to offer low-cost blood screenings all year round, now offering walk-in convenience to get the blood tests you want when you want them. MyLabs, patient-ordered testing, is available in Farmington at the hospital's laboratory and the Outpatient Diagnostic Center on 30th Street. Also in Aztec at San Juan Health Partners Family Medicine at 120 Llanos Street. With nearly 20 tests available, there's an option for everyone. MyLabs, patient-ordered testing, a wellness service of San Juan Regional Medical Center. 8:37. KSJE. It is Wednesday morning. You're listening to the Scott Michlin Morning Program. Good morning to our viewers who are watching us live on the KSJE Facebook page and YouTube channel from our visual radio studios this morning. Showing you a picture of the beautiful Atlantic Ocean at the Windjammer Resort from Lauderdale, Florida, where the current temperature is 60 degrees, a bit breezy on the beach this morning. They're expecting a high there of 71 degrees and a low of 58. Here at home, it's a little bit cooler than that. We are expecting, though, a high of 60 degrees today here as well in Farmington, with a chance of rain showers. 42 overnight, then more chances for rain Thursday and Friday with highs in the mid to upper 50s and overnight lows in the 30s. It's 42 degrees right now outside our studios here at KSJE. Morning, everybody. I'm Scott Michlin. You're listening to the Scott Michlin Morning Program, and today on the program we have members of the Connie Gotsch Arts Foundation who are with me here in our visual radio studio. Cathy Pope is here. She is the treasurer of the Arts Foundation. Good morning, and thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for having us.
You bet. Also, Mick Hesse is here, who folks have listened to this station should recognize that name because he is the host of Roving with the Arts, but he's also the president of the Connie Gotsch Arts Foundation. Mick, welcome. Welcome to KSJE, where you never are.
Thank you, Scott. I'd say it's an interesting program that I have that's done in the middle of the night when...
Now you're going to ruin the radio magic, aren't you? Are you really going to give us a peek into the inner workings of Roving with the Arts? But you come in and you're normally not here in the mornings, is what you're saying.
I'm normally not here, yes.
Okay,
true.
So here you are.
Yeah.
But we're glad to see both of you. Talk about a topic near and dear to, I think, all of our hearts, which is Connie Gotsch, who, of course, served as the station's first and only program director when she got here to San Juan College and served in that capacity for decades until her passing, and then made it in her will to start an arts foundation to be able to support the arts in San Juan County, which is now the work that you and the rest of the trustees and the board is doing, correct?
That's correct.
Right.
And so talk to me a little bit about that. This started when now? Gosh, it's been how many years?
Well, Connie died in 2012.
Yes.
And we set up the foundation and gave our first grant in the spring of 2013.
Okay. And the mission of the foundation is to support what type of work?
Generally, the mission is to support arts and artists within San Juan County.
Okay. And so that could make a number of different things, and that's what the money has gone for, is a number of different things, correct?
Yes.
Give me some examples of what you've funded over the years. Anything stick out?
Well, music is a big one.
Right.
Not because we happen to all be musicians, but there's a lot of musical activities that are happening in the area, and so we fund lessons, concerts, and events where music often is involved, but also arts-related activities at those same functions. It could be many different facets. We've learned over time that there's a lot more art going on than we were ever, or I was aware of before coming involved with the foundation.
Right.
And people apply for a myriad of interesting, very interesting subjects, that we get to evaluate as to whether we think that they're going to fulfill Connie's directive about supporting the arts.
And that's the idea, right? Is that it comes before you all and you review the application or the project and then make a decision of how much is being asked for and whether or not that'll work in the community and things like that, I suppose, right?
Yep.
Right. They have to give us a budget and kind of show their presence in the community beforehand. What they've done in the community previously, and then we decide whether we think it's a worthy project. I can say that there's been very few that we've ever actually turned down.
Right.
Right.
I mean, we tend to support almost anything that comes across us that's arts related at some level. We
Sure.
may not give you everything that you're asking for, but we will support it at some level.
But something. And full disclosure, everyone, even KSJE has been the recipient of money from the Connie Gotsch Arts Foundation, to which we're very appreciative, because
You're welcome.
in some of our leaner times, it really made a big difference. So thank you both for that. But the work continues, and there's still money to be given away.
Oh, yes.
You are working very hard to spend it, I know.
We are. that we are.
You really want to spend yourselves out of jobs, I think.
Yeah. One of the big projects we do is what we call the Young Audience program.
Right.
And we have created basically a small orchestra that showcases most of the instruments that kids would be able to start playing in the public schools in the 6th grade. And we used Tone Fetz here at the college as our director, and we go into the public schools and we present a 1-hour program to 4th and 5th graders that has music, both vocal and instrumental. There's a painter who paints a piece while we're playing. There's a dancer that performs on several of the pieces, and a poet who writes a poem about what's happening in the particular school, and then all of that is presented to the school at the end of it.
Wow.
So.
You're checking a lot of boxes
We
with
are
that
checking
event,
a lot of
aren't you?
boxes, yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
And again, these are, how old are these kids?
4th and 5th graders.
4th and 5th graders.
And so far, over the course of 2 seasons now, we've done all of the elementary schools in Farmington, Kirtland, Bloomfield, and Aztec. Right? And this year we're starting again in Farmington this coming fall.
Okay.
So.
And again, that is what Connie wanted done with her estate,
hope so.
isn't it? I mean, well, I think so, sure.
Yes,
But that's the mission of your the foundation, is to give money to these types of projects that really instill art and help support the art in San Juan County. And it is only San Juan County. She was very specific about
Yes.
that, I think, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
And so that continues. And so that's one of the projects that you do. And folks may also be familiar with another project that's been in the news recently, and that is a proposal for an auditorium to be named after Connie Gotsch at the Farmington Museum. And you all proposed that. I think, Mick, Hesse, you were at a city council meeting.
I did. I presented it to the council several months ago now, and it's slowly working its way through the wheels of government. But we're at a point now, at sort of a tipping point in one sense, in that we've also invited the Farmington Museum Foundation to be involved with the project, because their mission specifically targets the museum. Everything they do as a group, and it's a rather large group, is to support the programs that the museum presents to the public. And our idea is to have an auditorium connected with the museum, so that, nicer than sitting in one of the meeting rooms there when things are being discussed for the public. There's been some wonderful, there's a lecture series that's just fantastic down there. And our idea is that it would also be a space where local artists of all kinds can meet and present their art to the public in a very reasonable cost. Right now, there are lots of spaces around town where concerts can take place, but they're relatively expensive for a lot of the groups that are small, you know, and so we think it's going to be a great facility. And now the city also wants to include another exhibition hall connected to the auditorium, which is just, that's the way it's done actually in many big cities, and where a group would come in and have a presentation in the auditorium, be presented with all the facts and all the visuals and things that might be in the exhibition hall, and then they move over to the exhibition
To see the
itself.
exhibit, right. And it's very exciting. There was a story in the paper not too long ago, I think, about the next steps, a study that's going to be done now to kind of determine how
Right, the
this
study has
could
to
work.
be done before the city is willing to invest in the idea. And so we have these three groups. The city is one
Right.
entity, the Farmington Museum Foundation and the Connie Gotsch Foundation are sponsoring and paying for this study that has to be done.
Right.
And it's that's going to happen within the next couple of weeks, actually. The initial meeting will happen either next week or the week after.
Gotcha.
So.
And that works on looking at the need, I guess, and how it could actually be constructed or added to the museum property itself,
Yes.
and some of these other nitty-gritty details, I suppose, before they move forward.
Exactly.
And the auditorium itself would be about how large is the idea?
Well, that always depends on the budget.
I see.
And we're hoping for something 200 to 250 or something like that. That's a decent size for musical presentations, but also for plays or theater works that could happen in a space like that. So there's the cliche of "build it and they'll come." You know, what a great title for a
Right.
But that's true.
Sure.
We're finding out that that's really true. That if there is a facility, in this case, people are going to come knocking on the door. And one of our big points of that whole, the amount of money we're offering to pay $750,000 toward that construction, is that the local arts organizations get to use the space at a very, very reduced rate as what might be in the commercial space.
I see.
And at cost. And actually,
Right.
we're aiming to get the price for whatever kind of group goes in there. They pay the costs to run the facility that night.
Okay.
So,
Which makes sense.
and we think 750,000 should help that cause.
Right. It gets you a little bit foot in the door.
We
it
hope we
sounds
have a
like.
little influence. Yeah.
But I know there's some sticker shock sometimes when you talk about projects,
Yes.
even this scope
Yes.
and what it does cost. But that, I think, pays for a majority of what you're
Well,
talking
we hope
about.
so.
We hope so, yeah.
Yeah.
In addition, though, we should mention that both Pesco and Marion Oil and Gas have pledged, well, they've even started paying,
Yes.
a total of $75,000 each. So we have $900,000 for
Okay.
sure
Right.
for the facility, and that's only, we haven't even started polling or fundraising in the city yet either. So
Right.
Right. Yeah, we're hoping that other businesses may step forward, or that there can be a community
Sure.
fundraising drive, so that this really is a community effort to get this auditorium created.
Right. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think when you're talking to the city, it shows the city that there's more than just your organization behind
Yes.
this project, and there's
That's
more
right.
folks who want to see it happen,
Right.
which is always a good thing too. But the city, as the city does, and I think the college does it too, there's always a study and there's always some look before you leap kind of a thing
Sure.
for projects of this magnitude, and that's kind of where we are.
Right, because it's going to involve the expenditure of public funds, so they have to go through those hoops.
But what's
Right.
interesting is when you look back at the first proposals for the museum, an auditorium was sketched into the initial proposal.
Right, the long-range plans.
So we haven't just come up with this idea ourselves.
Right,
It's
right.
something that will benefit because they know that this is good for the city and good for the museum in this case.
Sure. And that makes a lot of sense too. Again, that it was something that was planned from the very beginning of that new facility there at Gateway Park. For folks who maybe don't remember when it was called the New Museum back in the day, it's been open now for a decade or more,
Right.
probably more like 20 years.
I wouldn't be surprised if Connie
Dating.
knew about it because she was a very
I imagine
active
she
member
did.
of
Yeah,
the
Right.
museum foundation.
that's true. And here it is, maybe
So
coming full
she's
circle.
channeling us.
Right.
Perhaps she is.
Right.
That's true. But very excited. And as I told you both before we came on the air, that I thought she would be very proud of the work that all of you are doing. And to see, I know every year you celebrate the grants that you've given out throughout the year and bring in some of the people that have received money to perform or talk a little bit about their project. And it's always a special evening to kind of hear how this foundation and how this money has helped.
And how appropriate it could be to hold that event in the Connie Gotsch
Theater.
auditorium.
That's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
You know, it'd be very cool.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
So
We just had our gala several weeks ago
Right.
in February, and it's wonderful for us because we only ever see these people on paper. You know, we see their application and we
right.
judge it, but then we get to see them actually live, and they're talking about their project. Or what's especially exciting for me as a musician is that we've paid for lessons for a lot of kids over the years, and they perform at the gala every year, and to see how they progress in their musicianship is really exciting.
Right. And yeah, it's got to be exciting for that. And a lot of teachers that come in, I think,
Yes.
talk about how they've used some of the money for some things they've done in their classes, and someone who maybe wants to travel to either a performance or a class. I think that's something that you have paid for.
Yes, we
In
pay
the
for
past.
attendance and conferences, that kind of thing.
And some of those things as well. And so for folks who are watching and listening to us this morning, if they're listening to this and saying, I didn't know there was money available for musicians or music lessons or helping my child get to a performance or a regional competition or something, there is. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, we have two
Yeah.
different kinds of applications they can fill out. One is a scholarship, and that covers music, obviously. We pay for some dance lessons for some kids. We're doing some art lessons. So if they want a scholarship for that kind of a thing, they can get the form from us, and they have to write an essay as to why they love their art.
Okay, sure.
They have to get letters of recommendation. But the other form is for a grant, and that's basically for anything that doesn't fall within kind of a lesson context.
Okay.
And both of those are available if you email me, and I will get it to you.
And that's how it works. So it's really sending that initial email to start the communication
Yes.
back and forth. And we're showing the email address on the screen for those of you who are watching us on our Facebook page and YouTube channel this morning, but it's Connie Gotsch, AF, Arts Foundation at gmail.com.
Correct.
And Gotsch is spelled G-O-T-S-C-H, everybody. But that's how you do it. And then there's no application period. It's just it's a floating
All year long.
All year
deadline,
long.
right? So
Right.
you just, if you need the money, you apply and see if you get it.
Right. The only requirement is that it has to be something that's in the future.
Right.
We won't pay for something that you've already done.
That's the point. Okay, got it. But again, you've had a number of people apply, and
Yes.
you've been spending money like there's no tomorrow.
Well,
with
yeah,
all your-
we're trying to give it
your
away.
folks. I know, you want to get rid of it all. That's true. That's
Another interesting project that we just signed up to
Yes.
to work with is the Farmington School District, and the teachers in the fine arts can apply through their own school for funding to attend conferences that sometimes can be quite expensive, actually. And Daniel Fear, who sits on our board, is the coordinator of fine arts in
the public schools,
in the
yes.
public schools here in Farmington. He has all the information if someone needs to get in touch directly with them. If they're a fine arts teacher in Farmington, they know who Daniel Fear
Sure.
is, so they can easily
He would be their
work it through.
contact.
Yes.
He'll be the contact there. And we've set aside $20,000 per year for the foreseeable future, providing this all pans out and those teachers find it both worthwhile. They have to come and talk to us at the end of the year too.
Right.
Right.
Not what
Tell
they
us,
did. Right.
tell
How
us
they
how
went.
good the food was at that conference.
Okay,
Things like
all,
that,
all the important things, yes.
Right.
But that's great that it's
Yeah.
available for those teachers, and I imagine it could take place in other districts too down the road. Is that something you want to expand, or not necessarily?
Well, as long as it's in San Juan County.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
Yeah,
So
sure.
That could work.
absolutely.
But it's got to be great for both of you and the others on the foundation board to kind of see this money
It's very cool.
going out into the community,
Very
and again, hearing back the stories of what a difference it made for a lot of these individuals and groups.
It's very long range. I think some people maybe didn't realize that when we first started this, but for those little seeds to get planted, to see the results of it just really takes time. And I think the community, I truly believe that the community of Farmington is going to becomes more arts interested and cognizant as the years go by.
Right.
It would seem like it would have to. That this money, it isn't just once and gone, but there are these seeds that get planted that maybe the people decide, well, maybe I'll stay in Farmington instead of go somewhere else to live after I'm done with my schooling.
Sure.
Those are great little things that
Right.
we're involved with.
Right. Well, and we're sitting here. We've all enjoyed the San Juan Symphony, and I know you've helped support the Farmington performances of the San Juan Symphony that
Yes,
are
we
held
do.
in San Juan County. Some of the theater productions. I think the foundation also helps with some of the community theater groups from
Yes.
time to time, and maybe even some of the school theater groups. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things besides musicians and music that we're talking about
absolutely.
as well.
Yeah,
Right?
it's a very
Absolutely.
wide range of things that we've covered.
Yeah, which is very exciting. And again, I think Connie would be thrilled. And I know she felt very deeply about the arts and the
Right.
community. She felt very deeply about this radio station and its mission to help promote the arts and support the artists, which is what we try to do each and every day in her memory and mission. And so together, I think we're making a difference. I know you are.
I think that's kind of cool, don't you? I mean,
Yeah.
to make a difference is something that is a good feeling.
Right.
It definitely is. I agree. Very good. Well, thank you both for coming in this morning. It's the Connie Gotsch Arts Foundation and the work that you are doing. And again, for more information, everybody, the first step is to send an email to the email address for the Connie Gotsch Arts Foundation, conniegotschaf@gmail.com. And it's GOTSCH. And there you go. Thank you both for coming in.
Thanks,
Thank you, Scott.
And for all your work on this very great project and all these projects. So it's wonderful. Thank you both. This program on KSJE is supported by Citizens Be about the performers, the songs, or something else entirely. From vaudeville to vinyl, you'll hear it all on Soundbeat. Soundbeat is produced at the Belfer Audio Archive, Syracuse University Libraries. Wednesday morning here on KSJE, it is time to take a trip to the Encouragement Lab, and that is where Communications Professor Dr. Mike Hattabaugh is standing by to join us. Good morning.
Morning, Scott. How are you doing?
I am well, thanks. Thank you for joining us yet again from the lab, and good to see you. And how are things going in the lab?
They're heating up.
Okay.
With short sleeves, it's so hot.
Wow. Well, that's good, I think. So, excellent. Today we're talking about perception checking.
Yeah, perception checking. I think we've talked about it in the past, but I did some group coaching this week, and I saw it firsthand. And here's what why perception checking is so important is I was talking to somebody, and they were convinced that because they said something to somebody, it had to have been true. In other words, you know, if I tell my wife, you know what, I do love you more than anybody else, that makes it true. And yet, if you ask my wife that, she'll be like, well, I don't care if you tell me that. You got to show it to me.
Right.
And that's what perception checking is.
Aha. Okay. And so, how do we do that? I guess proof in the performance or what?
Well, you have to ask them what their perception is. That's why it's perception checking is if you think you're performing well, it doesn't mean anything if the person that matters or the person you're performing for, it's what they think about your performance, right?
Right.
So, I mean, think about professional sports. Every pro athlete never thinks they get too old to play the sport.
True. Right.
But if they ask their boss, their coach, and they get shocked when they're cut, they didn't do any perception checking. And so that's a very visible example of that. But that happens in intimate relationships. That happens at work. That happens, you know, just in general public is you don't know the full truth until you ask somebody, and that's what perception checking is hey, how am I doing? How is this looking to you? You know, I'm perceiving it this way. What are you perceiving?
Aha. And I guess don't be afraid of the potential answer if you're going to ask that question.
Yeah, I
Right?
saw a video the other day that said, you know what, we're not afraid of doing something, we're afraid of what people are going to say about it.
Yeah.
But that's where most fear comes from, is what are you going to say about what I do? And our fear of doing that means I'm not going to do perception checking. I'm not going to ask you, how am I doing? And guess what? That's really important, because if you're not asking that, you're probably talking to the wall. You're not talking to anybody. So, you know, that feedback, I know you guys at the radio station, you know, they've always said one piece of feedback, right, is worth hundreds of listeners, because, you know, if one person feels that way, a bunch must feel that way, right?
That's true. That's very true.
So that's a form of perception checking. Now, sometimes, guess what? You get false feedback, and you have to realize that and weigh that into the process, and you can't let it paralyze you. But far too many people, especially when it comes to close relationships, don't do enough perception checking. They don't just simply ask, how am I doing in this area? I thought I've improved. What do you think?
Very good. And then, again, by getting that information, you're not really kind of isolating yourself or living in a bubble, right? You're getting some feedback, and you can maybe adjust accordingly depending on what you hear.
Right, and realize the reason you don't do it is you're afraid of the answer, but yet being afraid of the answer means that if they aren't liking what you're doing, you're repeating yourself with stuff they don't like or don't want you doing anyway. So why not go ahead and get the brutal answer, and then you can adjust.
Good point. All right. Good advice, Dr. Hattabaugh. As always, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you very much. That's Dr. Mike Hattabaugh. He's with me every Wednesday from the Encouragement Lab right here on KSJE Farmington.